In this article, I propose to consider the conditions upon which this endowment of power can be obtained. Let us borrow a little light from the Scriptures. I will not cumber your paper with quotations from the Bible, but simply state a few facts that will readily be recognized by readers of the Scriptures. If the readers of this article will read in the last chapter of Matthew and of Luke the commission which Christ gave to his disciples, and in connection read the first and second chapters of the Acts of the Apostles, they will be prepared to appreciate what I have to say in this article. First, the disciples had already been converted to Christ, and their faith had been confirmed by his resurrection. But let me say that conversion to Christ is not to be confounded with a great consecration to the world's conversion. In conversion, the soul has to do directly and personally with Christ. It yields up its prejudices, its antagonisms, its self-righteousness, its unbelief, its selfishness, accepts him, trusts him, and supremely loves him. All this the disciples had, more or less, distinctly done. But as yet they had received no definite commission, and no particular endowment of power to fulfill a commission. Second, but when Christ had dispelled their great bewilderment resulting from his crucifixion, and confirmed their faith by repeated interviews with them, he gave them their great commission to win all nations to himself. But he admonished them to tarry at Jerusalem till they were endued with power from on high, which he said they should receive not many days hence. Now observe what they did. They assembled, the men and women, for prayer. They accepted the commission, and doubtless came to an understanding of the nature of the commission, and the necessity of the spiritual endowment which Christ had promised. As they continued day after day in prayer and conference, they no doubt came to accept more and more the difficulties that would beset them, and to feel more and more their inadequacy to the task. A consideration of the circumstances and results leads to the conclusion that they one and all consecrated themselves with all they had to the conversion of the world as their life work. They must have renounced utterly the idea of living to themselves in any form, and devoted themselves with all their powers to the work set before them. This consecration of themselves to the work, this self-renunciation, this dying to all that the world could offer them, must, in the order of nature, have preceded their intelligent seeking of the promised endowment of power from on high. They then continued with one accord in prayer for the promised baptism of the Spirit, which baptism included all that was essential to their success. Observe, they had a work set before them. They had a promise of power to perform it. They were admonished to wait until the promise was fulfilled. How did they wait? Not in listlessness and inactivity, not in making preparations by study and otherwise to get along without it, not by going about their business and offering an occasional prayer that the promise might be fulfilled. But they continued in prayer and persisted in their suit till the answer came. They understood that it was to be a baptism of the Holy Ghost. They understood that it was to be received from Christ. They prayed in faith. They held on with the firmest expectation until the endowment came.